Hello, my name is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I am recording this on June 3rd. We're going to go over some of the news of the day and also a little bit of the market reaction to the news. So, with that, please help support the work that I do by making sure that you are a paid member to my Patreon channel or Substack channel. That way, you can help support all the free content that I provide. You can also donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. It's a great way to help support the work that I do. All of the content that I'm creating is for free, so please help support. You can also listen to my audio podcast archives on my website underneath broadcast radio. You can watch the live streams on Broadcast Live and then read the generated news under broadcast paper. So there's lots of ways to consume the content that I create. And again, it's all for free. So please help support the work that I do. I want to go over the markets and the breaking news. Now, markets right now are the S&P 500 futures right now is trading at 7,606. All right. Again, I have a year-end target at 7,800. I may bump that up to 8,000. VIX is trading at 16. That's very stable, but I suspect that VIX might spike this week or next week. So watch for that. The euro is trading at 1/16th, so currencies are stable. Japanese yen is trading at 159.89. Oil has been fluctuating. If you've been watching my update of the markets that I published on Sunday, that I said that there was going to potentially be a trading range between 87 to 94 to 95, somewhere in there. And right now it's trading at 95. The technical resistance level is 94.84, I think it is. So that trading range of 87 to 95, and we're right at the top of this. If it starts trading above because of the news that Israel is hitting Hezbollah and potentially the ceasefire agreement won't take hold between Iran and the United States, we may be trading in a range of 95 to 104. But if we start to hear news today or tomorrow that things are moving in the right direction and the Strait of Hormuz is going to be allowing more ships to go back and forth, and that oil is really flowing through the strait, then we'll be trading below 87. But be careful. There is this potential of a trading range between 95 to 104 if things are bad in the news relative to the Iranian war. And if things are positive, it'll be an 87 to 95 trading range. Right now, we're right at that top of that. So we don't know if it's going to break or not. Bitcoin did drop, and this is at 67. I've been noticing that it seems to be correlated to the news and oil. Typically, Bitcoin was going up when the stock market was doing well, especially the NASDAQ. But the reverse is happening. Stock market's doing really well. Bitcoin's a dog. And I think it's because of oil. In addition, liquidity may be coming out. And this is a very important point here. Liquidity might be coming out of Bitcoin and moving into these IPOs that are going to be taking place. SpaceX is doing their IPO, Anthropic, and also OpenAI. SpaceX is going to be first. It looks like that with the release for their IPO, then Anthropic, then OpenAI. A lot of people are saying this is a lot to digest for the markets in terms of liquidity. So Bitcoin may be suffering because of this. All right, that is a little bit of the update of the news. I want to do a little op-ed before I start with covering some of the clips. I'm concerned about what is starting to take hold in the United States and in the Middle East. As Trump is trying to de-escalate and trying to get the nuclear material from Iran, and I hold that either they willfully give it up or we forcefully take it. Either way, but it has to be done. But I don't want Trump to continually kick the can down the road. All right. And I'm concerned that Trump is continually kicking the can down the road and not getting the job done, which is only going to keep oil higher and inflate, it'll bake in inflation. So that's bad. So get the nuclear material forcefully with special forces or whatever you got to do, land troops, whatever it takes, just do it now. Or have an agreement where we can peacefully get it from the Iranians. I suspect the Iranians are not going to be willing to give it up peacefully, and therefore force is going to be needed. But I'm concerned that Trump keeps on kicking the can down the road. Now, there's this other aspect to the Middle East, and that is the Israelis. The Israelis are seeming to bifurcate with the strategy from what was original. And they're kind of doing their own thing with Lebanon. Trump was very upset with Netanyahu not coordinating with him because Trump is trying to create this peace agreement with the Iranians. And voila, activity in Beirut causes the peace agreement between the United States and the Iranians to falter. So Trump gets all upset, rightfully so. The goodwill of the American people and the goodwill of the President of the United States with Israel is starting to wane. And Netanyahu needs to realize that time is up. The American people don't want a never-ending war in the Middle East. And the American taxpayers don't want to be funding their operations to root out Hezbollah and Hamas. The United States has done a lot for Israel. And it seems as though Israel can't be trusted. Right? There seems to be a little bit of an element of distrust starting to come about. Not that the Israelis are distrusting the United States. It's the other way around. The United States is starting to distrust the Israelis. And I'm talking about the military. Now, the people in the United States, they're tired of this going on. Now, I'm for the United States knocking out the IRGC and destroying the theocratic regime of Iran. I'm for that. But I'm also for getting it done, not kicking the can down the road. And if you can't get it done, then there's a problem with our military prowess. I'm also for Israeli knocking out Hezbollah and Hamas. But it should be on their own dime, not the U.S. dime. The United States taxpayers shouldn't be helping in this. I also have a little bit of problem with if it's an existential threat, if there is an existential threat because of Hamas or Hezbollah for the viability of Israel, then why aren't more people willing to fight for their country? That's a problem. That's a big problem. So with that, Netanyahu seems to be going rogue and causing problems in the oil market, which is going to hurt the whole world because elevated prices in oil is just going to bake in inflation. The inflation rate will go up and then it'll come back down once things are stabilized. But the price of goods and services will permanently be increased. So that's a problem. So my take on this is that Netanyahu is going rogue and he needs to be pulled back by the President of the United States. And I think Trump behind the scenes needs to say, Netanyahu, if you continue this, the United States military is not going, our our weaponry and our military will not help you. You're on your own. So Israel, I think, she needs to be on a shorter leash. And this problem in the Middle East needs to start moving towards an endpoint and not a continuous conflict. So this problem that we have with oil at 95, it was trading in the 80s, about $87, $88 a barrel. This elevation in oil is because of the Israelis not playing ball in the region and trying to de-escalate the problem. But if you look at the whole historical context, Iran has been funding Hezbollah, and Hezbollah has been working in Lebanon and in Syria, where they're causing havoc for Israel. But the thing is that Israel needs to fight their own war. And it's time for the United States to get out. We need to get the nuclear material from Iran, and we're done. So Trump is dragging it too much, and Netanyahu is continuing on the war effort and not really trying to gain peace in the region. Now, that doesn't mean that Hezbollah isn't at fault. Hezbollah is also at fault and needs to die. So it's a complicated situation here. But Israel needs to be on their own now. That's my take. Israel needs to fight their own war and not constantly need the United States' help. And the United States needs to stop kicking the can down the road with Iran and destroy the IRGC forcefully and get the nuclear material. And stop playing games, because it's very possible that Trump is going to end up with an agreement that's very similar to what Barack Obama had. Many analysts in foreign policy are saying the same thing, that this is moving in the direction where Trump may actually have the same get a very similar agreement than that what Barack Obama had. Well, that's a failure. That's a failure of our military, and that's a failure of the leadership of our executive branch. That includes the State Department, the Pentagon, the White House. So that's my little op-ed with it. I'm tired of the United States taxpayer dollars going for a war effort in Israel. Israel needs to be on its own, especially when its own people are willing to fight for its own war. With that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great supplements that I offer. Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost is a great supplement to take to help to slow down the aging process. And what this will do is help with brain function. It'll help with musculature, rev up your energy levels and your cellular metabolism, soak up free radicals, help with your endocrine system and your immune system. You'll get better sleep. It's a great supplement to take. And what I have found, because I am a sufferer of headaches, chronic headaches, going all the way back to about age 8. If you're a migraine sufferer, this might help you. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. It'll help to slow down the aging process. And like I said, it works on a multitude of systems. Gladiator Barley, you can take it separately or you can stack it with the Boomer Boost. And Gladiator Barley will help to build muscle, but it'll also help to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals. And when you're doing that, you're helping your immune system and your endocrine system. You're also helping your cardiovascular system and brain function, because keeping down inflammation and soaking up free radicals, those systems will work properly, more efficiently. Again, Gladiator Barley also helps with building muscle. You can take this separately, or you can take it with the Boomer Boost. That's a great stack to get healthy. Another great product that I have, if you don't want to gain more muscle, the Heirloom Barley will do basically everything the Gladiator Barley does, except it doesn't have that added benefit of helping build muscle. It'll help to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals. And again, that's super important. Why? Because by soaking up free radicals and bringing down inflammation, you're helping your immune system, your endocrine system, your cardiovascular system, and brain function. And when you do this on a regular basis, you're going to notice that you're slowing down the aging process. Plus, you're daily detoxifying your body. You will notice that you're getting healthier. And you'll notice that you'll recover quicker from a workout when you take Gladiator barley or heirloom barley. And you will also notice that if you have joint pain, that inflammation, bringing down that inflammation may help that joint pain from arthritis. Another great product that I have is C60. C60 is a very potent antioxidant. And I have it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, and also in extra virgin olive oil. Now, C60, you take a teaspoon a day every day, and what it'll do is it'll soak up free radicals. At the cellular level, it's going to help your mitochondria and you'll have more energy. So after taking this for just a couple weeks, you're going to notice you have more energy. But by helping boost up the health of the mitochondria, the cellular metabolism will improve and you'll have more ATP, more energy. By soaking up those free radicals, you're bringing down inflammation in the tissues, and those tissues will age slower. At the vascular level, by soaking up the free radicals, you're reducing the concentration of oxidized LDL. By doing this, you're reducing plaque formation. Super important. And at the brain level, by improving the neurons, your cognition will be faster, your memory will improve. You're bringing down inflammation and soaking up the free radicals at the neural level. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. It's a very, very potent antioxidant, and you stack it. You can stack it with the Boomer Boost. That's a great stack, where you're bringing down inflammation, you're targeting all these different systems, and you're also soaking up those free radicals. And I also want to talk about the great lozenges that I have. Because we're in the allergy season now, be prepared. Some people are cleaning the garage, the basement, the home. You want to protect yourself from all that dust. So Manuka honey and orange splash are in stock. They're high quality lozenges. They're made from structural nanosilver. It'll help to protect that oral pharynx and create those secretions to improve that immune system for your innate immune system. Super important. And again, the structural nanosilver helps to nutrient. I also have cherry drops in stock. It's also made from the structural nanosilver. Sorry about that. It's also made from the structural nanosilver. It'll help to neutralize, perfect for the allergy season, the cold season, and even just cleaning around the home. Take them, have some at home and at work. You never know when you need them. They're perfect for trying to mitigate issues with soreness, throat irritation. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now, the S&P 500 is at 7,601. So the market is, it's doing pretty well since the last broadcast that I did on this. What we're going to do is we're going to listen into Bloomberg for a little while and then go to some of the news talking about U.S. military defeats Iranian missile drones.
Balcony with them to do that every day. So they have an IPO today. Down at the NASDAQ market site, you've got Scripps. There's the spelling bee winner. This kid spelled, I think, 32 words in 90 seconds in the lightning round. That's insane. That's less than 3 seconds per word. I would ask him, why does Scripps have 2 P's? Like, how do you pronounce that differently with 1 P or 2 P's? Unfortunately for them, the stock is down 84% in the past 5 years. In terms of the stocks that we're watching today, Macy's is the big retail earnings news. The shares are gaining more than 4% because they boosted their forecasts for the year. They see growth in their luxury business. That is, of course, Bloomingdale's right across the street from us here at 731 Lex. So Macy's is up today. Palo Alto Networks had been up big after raising its guidance. It was gaining 13% before a turnaround and now a drop of 5%. I guess didn't meet expectations or buy the rumor, sell the news. And Marvell Technology right now up 9% in the cash trade, surging again. This after NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said back on Monday that this company could be a $1 trillion company. Joining me now is Crossmark Global Investments Chief Market Strategist Victoria Fernandez. And Victoria, as we watch Marvell continue to gain from this, I mean, Jensen Huang has sent so many companies soaring in the last week at the Computex conference in Taipei. How much do you see this which was once a narrow rally, like broadening out across the market?
Yeah, good morning, Matt. It is interesting. We had such an AI-focused rally going on in the markets, and we are just now starting to see some of it move around. I mean, you're starting to see some transportations do better. You're starting to see aerospace and defense. And two of the areas that I'm really interested in watching is you're starting to see a little bit of a relative turnaround in healthcare and in discretionary. And as you and I have talked before, that discretionary versus staples ratio, that has been bottom of the barrel for quite a long period of time. Discretionary was just not performing well off those oversold conditions, and you needed that to have the consumer continue to be strong. We needed that for the economy, and so now we're just now starting to see that. So hopefully this broadening continues, and we get to see more of the non-AI part of the economy catch up.
Now, before we see that, I want to just point out Alphabet is boosting its equity capital raise. It was already astounding at $80 billion, kind of one-upping SpaceX. And now they're going to raise $84.75 billion. How much cash is out there, Victoria? I mean, even if everyone's a believer, like how much money is there to buy these assets?
Yeah, and remember too, they did their debt offering earlier in the year, right? So it's equity and debt that we're seeing coming. I was actually reading a Morgan Stanley article yesterday that said there's about $250 trillion worth of global capital that can be allocated to the AI trades, to the new IPOs that are coming. And so the concern that a lot of people have is where's the money going to come from in order to really take all these new shares in? It looks like it's out there and it's waiting for the opportunity. We continue to see these companies come to market debt and equity side, and there is plenty of opportunity and plenty of people wanting to have these names, appetite for these names, and I just don't see it starting to go down anytime soon.
No, I mean, there's all the money in the world to buy debt, to push spreads down, to I guess the only place where maybe people are pulling it out is private markets, private assets. We saw that in private credit during the SaaS apocalypse. We're apparently starting to see it in private equity as well. What are you hearing?
Yeah, there was so much concern around private equity. You were just having some good conversations around that as well. And not that we thought that the private equity would flow through to the broader credit space. But I do think people were like, look, maybe we didn't completely understand when we went into some of these that we weren't going to be able to get our money out completely. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of private equity. So they are pulling those when there's opportunity. Now, we do know that's limited, right? There was a news story today where a Swiss private equity company is limiting the amount that people can pull out. But I think that is a space people are doing that. And also, Matt, people could be trimming some of these names that have done so well, some of these hyperscaler names, and starting to have money on the side or putting it to work in companies that are going to be using this AI to the best of their ability instead of just providing the AI. So it could be coming from a few different spots.
Have you found companies, investment opportunities, Victoria, outside of the AI space that are using AI to really boost the bottom line?
You know where I think we're going to see it, and we may not have it yet, but I think where it's coming is really in the healthcare space. And if you really look at like biotech, I think we're going to have in the future some wonderful gains here in this space. with using AI and what that can do for the medical field and biotech. So that would be an area that I actually would look at and maybe put some money to work. You look at names like AbbVie or Amgen, those are two of the largest names in that sector that we have in our portfolio. So I think there's some opportunity there.
All right, Victoria, great to get some time with you. Really appreciate you joining us. Crossmark Global Investments Chief Market Strategist, Victoria Fernandez. Let's get a check on what's going on in the stock market. Just a few minutes into the session, we're looking at still losses on the S&P, although they're incredibly slight, right? We only see 16 points down, and the breadth is pretty well split, 220 to the upside, 280 to the downside here. On the winning side of the ledger, we have Meta Platforms and Intel going back and forth for the #1 points addition. We're going to talk to an Intel partner in just a moment. Apple and AMD rising. Google, even after saying they're going to raise their equity capital raise to 80, almost 85 billion from a planned 80 or an announced 80 that we saw a couple of days ago. On the downside, NVIDIA. So this is what drags the index. It's only off 1.7%, but you can see they take 10 points away from the index. Microsoft is off, IBM, Oracle, and Broadcom as well, although Broadcom has done so well, adding, I think, $280 billion in market cap over the last 4 sessions alone. Palo Alto Networks also doing poorly after it jumped so high in the pre-market. In terms of the industry group breakdown, we have more winners than losers. Utilities, energy, and consumer staples, though, are leading. And this is a really defensive indicator when these companies are on the rise. Although, why be defensive after hitting record high after record high, 6 consecutive closes at a new high, 9 consecutive weeks at a new high. And we see on the downside, financials, IT, and consumer discretion taking a little bit of a hit there. Coming up, I mentioned the Intel partner. We're going to talk with Sambanova CEO.
We're going to go to BBC, and it's talking about U.S. and Iran launch new strikes. This was published approximately about an hour ago. As Kuwait says, airport hit by Iranian drones. Now, again, oil is, trading at around $95 a barrel. So you have this Iranian strike. You have the issue with Israel in Lebanon. Things are unstable again. And it's only going to cause further disruption in prices of goods and services. We'll feel it in the United States with gas at the pump, but it's going to hit everything. The longer this takes to solve, the longer and the more pernicious the inflation will happen in the United States. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and find it. Get the probiotics, right? I have 2 types of probiotics. The veggie cap version and the powdered version. Both very high quality. And what a probiotic does is it'll help to improve your gut biome, help you to digest, help you to be able to break up certain types of foods, help with the immune system at the gut level, reduce leaky gut syndrome. Improved gut biome will improve your skin, your brain function, and your metabolism. And when you do this on a regular basis, you will notice that you are getting healthier. Good health starts with taking a good probiotic. You can get a veggie cap version or the powdered version. I prefer to take the powdered version just because I take all these different powders for my lunch, like collagen and lignans and the Boomer Boost, the Gladiator Barley. So it's just easier for me. But both are very high quality. So please go to my store and get the probiotics. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Make sure you use discount 5. All caps, discount 5. You get $5 off any order. Vitamin D3, super important to take. It's dual purpose. It's going to help with building denser bone because it helps to absorb calcium. Vitamin D3 helps to get rid of cells that are infected, helps cells to go into apoptosis. And your gene expression will improve because it's a gene expression cofactor. Vitamin D3 also helps with cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin D3. Take it every day. And vitamin C with magnesium, really important. Helps to boost up your immune system, helps with brain function, and also magnesium increases the efficacy of vitamin D3. So please go to my store, get the vitamin C and magnesium. You can also get the magnesium and zinc, super important to take. That will boost up your immune system and your brain function. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5, click the link. The link is in this description of this video and all my videos. Click the link, go to the store, and get the great supplements that I offer. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Iran have exchanged fire as hopes for a ceasefire are strained further. In the past few minutes, Iran's foreign ministry has condemned US attacks on Iranian tanker and Qasem Island. The US military described them as self-defense strikes, shooting down ballistic missiles and drones fired at ships and Gulf countries. US Central Command said the strikes on Qasem Island in the Strait of Hormuz were in response to attempted attacks by Iran across the Middle East. Earlier, the US fired a missile at a ship it says was violating an American blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, disabling the boat. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard said it had targeted US bases in the region in retaliation, including Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. The sirens sounded across Kuwait City as the military's air defences intercepted the missile and drone attacks. Kuwaiti officials say Iran has carried out a drone strike on a passenger terminal at Kuwait International Airport, and in the past few minutes, the ministry there says one person has been killed. Our Middle East correspondent Yolande Nell is in Jerusalem with all the latest.
Kuwait has been repeatedly targeted by Iran since the start of the Iran war, and even during the ceasefire. It's a major US ally in this region, and it has got two US air bases there. Iran says that these have been used to carry out attacks on its territory. But what we've heard from the Kuwaitis in the past few hours is that a passenger terminal was targeted by Iran at its main international airport, that there is serious damage there. A number of individuals were injured and flights have now been suspended. And this is coming only a couple of days after the airport reopened, because it had previously closed due to damage it sustained at the height of hostilities during the Iran war. Now, in the background here, that the exact sequence of events isn't really clear, but this exchange of fire between the US and Iran seems to have started with the US firing at this ship that was empty, trying to head into Iranian ports and disabling that vessel. At the same time, the Americans, the Central Command, is saying that it has also attacked drones in the area that were threatening civilian shipping. It's not given much detail on that, and it has confirmed that it carried out a strike on Qasem Island in the Strait of Hormuz, saying that that was a ground control station there. Now, in retaliation, Iran has been launching these attacks on both Kuwait and Bahrain, the home of the US Naval Fifth Fleet. An earlier statement by the Americans suggested that Iranian missiles and drones had been intercepted or had fallen in open areas without causing serious damage.
That was Yolande now in Jerusalem. In Lebanon, state media has reported an Israeli strike near Beirut. That is despite President Trump claiming an agreement had been reached that Israeli forces would not bomb the Lebanese capital in exchange for Hezbollah not attacking Israel. Elsewhere in southern Lebanon, a medical source has told AFP that 6 people have been killed in Israeli strikes near Tyre. And these are the latest pictures from southern Lebanon of the latest Israeli strikes. It all comes as talks are being held between Lebanese and Israeli officials in Washington without Hezbollah.
Now,
Well, Paula,
keep this in
yes,
mind. Keep in mind what I've been saying on many videos, that there's a curse coming September 11th, 2026. The reason why Rosh Hashanah coincides with the Sabbath on that day And there's going to be a curse that's coming down on the world. Not just certain people, not just a family, it's the whole world, right? And you're starting to see the emergence of this. And that curse is war, pathogens. You're hearing a bunch of problems in the Congo and on ships, finances. There's this big boom. It almost seems like there is a jubilation that's taking place in the stock market, but there are many people in the United States and around the world that are suffering. You have the doom loop with the debt in the UK and France and in Germany. So we got a big problem here. Something's emerging. Something's emerging. This is what I call the world curse. And part of that is that we as mankind haven't been able to get our act together to actually go after evil and rectify it by killing it off. But also stop the infighting amongst nations and amongst people within a nation. The liberals and the conservatives, the Jews, the non-Jews, the Muslims and the Christians, the Sunnis and the Shiites. There's too much infighting. There's too much conflict. There's too much rhetoric that is going on in social media. And if you are to be honest and you just took a survey of what is going on across the world, and you were to judge if mankind is good or evil, or is going in the wrong path or the right path, you would have to conclude that there needs to be some rectification that takes place. Now, things can happen where the curse is going to be mitigated or circumvented if we do the right thing. It's June 3rd. The curse doesn't start until September 11th. But if it does happen, it's going to last for a minimum of 1 year. And that window of setting down this curse is between September 11th of 2026 and around the first week of October of 2027. Now, some people would say part of this is because the red heifer hasn't been ritually slaughtered. Some people in the scholarly world would say that the reason why the red heifer wasn't slaughtered was because the Sanhedrin wasn't established in the 1960s in Israel. Either way, because of scholars' decision or layman's actions, there's a curse coming. And it's going to affect everybody. Health, wealth, security.
Independent member of the Lebanese Parliament, and speaking to us from Beirut, she said that whilst the capital might be experiencing some respite from Israeli strikes for now, that's not the case elsewhere in the country.
Well, the ceasefire is only holding up in Beirut. There is no ceasefire in the south, just like you mentioned. Airstrikes are still happening all the time, killing, shelling, and issuing also evacuation warnings. It's ongoing. Now, the new formula looks like northern Israel against Beirut, or the Beirut southern suburb, the Tahrir. So till now, things are holding up. And I think this ceasefire this time was imposed by the US after the famous, interesting call between President Trump and Netanyahu. Obviously, it was imposed on Netanyahu. So it's very fragile.
We know that ceasefire discussions are taking place in Washington. How much involvement does the Lebanese government have, and how possible is it to come to any ceasefire agreement when Hezbollah isn't involved?
Well, it's led by the Lebanese government, and it was a clear statement from Beirut that we negotiate for ourselves, and Hezbollah does not negotiate on behalf of Lebanon or Iran. Let's say Iran cannot negotiate on behalf of Lebanon. Well, everyone knows by now that Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran, and now it's widely known that the Lebanese front is definitely part of the broader deal and the broader conflict. Even the escalation today in the Gulf against Kuwait, some are analyzing that this might be linked to what's still happening in southern Lebanon. Let me be clear here. It's not that Iran really cares if Lebanon is destroyed or not, but Iran cares about its reputation. For months and months, Lebanese were repeating that Iran gave up on Lebanon and that Lebanon is only a battlefield, and then they forgot about Hezbollah and its leadership a year ago when they were all killed. Iran didn't do anything, no reaction from Iran. So Iran entered this war when it was bombed by the Americans and the Israelis. Before that, Lebanon was totally forgotten, only lip service, nothing else. So this time, things that are happening in Lebanon are definitely linked to what's happening in the Gulf, in the broader conflict between the US and Iran. And the negotiations in Washington, D.C. are definitely tied to that. However, it's a different path that the Lebanese government is leading.
As you know, Israel, for them, the key point is Hezbollah's disarmament. Is that something that the Lebanese state can have any influence over?
The Lebanese state already declared the military wing of Hezbollah as out of law. And this is a big decision that was taken by this government. This is the most important card, but Hezbollah is giving this card to Iran and not to Lebanese negotiators or the Lebanese state. So once again, the clear alliance or the clear ties between Iran and Hezbollah are more and more than ever not taking into consideration the Lebanese interest. I wish this card was with the hand of the Lebanese negotiator. We would have, as Lebanese, a much more powerful position and more leverage in these difficult negotiations.
And that's Paula.
I want to pivot over to the live stream that's happening with Bloomberg about this. I have to scroll it back a little bit. Let's listen into their coverage on the Iranian war.
This is Bloomberg Open Interest. I'm Matt Miller. Let's get a quick check on what's going on in the stock market for you. S&P 500 now down 0.5%, and percent 217.30 is accurate. Down today as concerns about the withdrawals that we've seen in private credit spread to private equity. Now, President Trump says he swore at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during a call this week as he pushes to de-escalate fighting in Lebanon. The Israelis seem very insistent on escalating. The president also told the Pod Force One podcast that Iran has agreed it will not pursue a nuclear weapon, something Iran has been saying for decades. Joining us now is Bloomberg White House reporter Skylar Woodhouse. Skylar, what is the president going to get beyond a commitment that Iran has been making to every administration since I've been voting?
No fees and a top-tier rate on high-yield savings.
Look, he told ABC News that he would like to see written concessions. I mean, he's also desperate for a deal. He expressed his frustration with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So right now, it's sort of a waiting game to see when the president, might accept a deal. Last week, he met with his national security team where he expected him to walk out with the next step or with a potential deal. And we did not see that. And look, this ceasefire that started in April is nearing 2 months. So look, this is something the president wants to see wrapped up, especially as oil prices are continuing to surge. The November midterm elections here in the U.S. are quickly approaching. And so he's looking to sort of get this under wraps, but there's still a lot of questions remaining to when we could see that deal and how much the president might be willing to budge on.
I saw that he said on the Pod Force One podcast, we could have the Strait of Hormuz open by Labor Day, which isn't until September, and we're still at the beginning of June. Is there a concern that this ceasefire, in which we continue to fire at one another, will not hold?
Yeah, I think this has been a pretty wobbly ceasefire that we have seen. Obviously, we have still continued to see fighting. And on that bit on Labor Day, one thing that I think was particularly interesting.
This is what I'm talking about with Trump. I did a special episode at Harvard University about Trump, and he's failing. He's failing. He still doesn't have tariffs under control. He has not solved the issue with the Strait of Hormuz. And because of this, inflation is not controlled. Yeah, if you look at it, it's below 3%. But the thing is it should be closer to 2%. And because of people's concern about what's happening with his administration, the uneasiness, people aren't willing to be more positive, be willing to spend more or take more risks because of the uncertainty. Yes, we do have a K-shaped economy and some people are doing really well, but the middle class is getting squeezed here. Trump's failing. He is failing. And now he's saying, well, maybe we'll have something in September. What about going back a month ago or a month and a half ago? What about him saying this is all going to be done in 3 weeks? Well, then it's another 3 weeks and another 3 weeks and another 3 weeks and then a month and another 60 days and blah, blah, blah. Trump's in a quagmire. He can't solve the problem.
On the president's comments on that podcast was a while back when the war sort of really kicked off. I believe it was the Treasury Secretary who had mentioned, that we could see oil prices, gas prices come down by end of summer. So it does make you wonder if that is the timeline that they are really working on there. But yeah, no, look, the president is, who knows what we can see on True Social, but that timeline is pretty interesting.
We do now know that he's going to do away with his $1.8 billion weaponization fund, and that he wants Todd Blanche to remain as Attorney General.
Yes, that's
and then they haven't mentioned it yet, but what about backfilling the position from Pelley because Pelley is leaving? Well, Pulte is going to take her position. He has no experience in national security. He's a builder. He's a real estate guy. What? I mean, I don't understand what Trump is doing. It makes zero sense.
A particularly interesting thing. It's really no surprise considering that since Bondi stepped aside and then Blanche has been serving as the deputy, the fact that the president has not rushed to reappoint or renominate an attorney general, I think is pretty telling and does show that the president does have a good amount of confidence in the acting attorney general right now. So yeah, I think it's, we'll see how long he lasts, but because we have not seen that official nomination, I can imagine that we'll see Blanche around for a little bit longer.
All right, Skylar, thanks so much for joining us. Bloomberg.
We're going to go to Jack Keane talking about Iran. But before we do, please go to my store, help support the work that I do by getting the great products that I offer. You can get Max 35, Max 14, or Cleanse. They're at different price points, at different parts per million, but you take a teaspoon a day every day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 30 seconds or so, and then swallow. What this will do is boost up your innate immune system, improve your oral cavity, improve your oral pharynx, maintain your mucosal barrier, and improve the epithelial lining. And that way, you're boosting up your innate immune system and you're neutralizing. Super important during the allergy season, during the cold season. But do this every day. I've been doing this protocol, taking either Max 35, Max 14, or Cleanse for 6 years. Every day. Teaspoon a day, every day. Now I have two types of gels. Structural nanosilver gels help to neutralize. You have the tube form and the quick dispenser called Renew. Now, it's dual purpose. You can put it on a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn, and it'll help heal it quicker. You can also use it as a daily skincare. Put it on your skin, and it'll help your skin at the topical level later. But if you're not feeling well, or someone's around you's not feeling well, or the allergies season, use it. Okay? Let me give you an example for the allergy season. You go outside and you contract some antigen and you start sneezing all the time. Lightly coat your nostrils with the gel and it will mitigate allergies. If you are around someone that has a cold or you have a cold, what you want to do, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your ears, on your nose, lightly coat your nostrils. It'll stay active for 5.5 hours. It neutralizes it. It has structural nanosilver. It's very powerful. Make sure you have some at work, have some at home. You never know when you need it. And I have structural nanosilver toothpaste. This will help to neutralize, help to improve your oral cavity, reduce inflammation at the gum line, whiten your teeth, freshen your breath. And by using this daily, you're improving your oral hygiene. And by having better oral hygiene, you are also improving your cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get structural nanosilver toothpaste. And lastly, get this stack. This will help to bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, boost up your immune system and your endocrine system, help with brain function, and help with reducing plaque formation. Ashwagandha root will bring down cortisol levels and blood glucose levels. And by doing that, you're boosting up your immune system. You're reducing stress at the vascular level. That's going to help with brain function and also cardiovascular health. Lignans helps the endocrine system and the immune system, soaks up free radicals and brings down inflammation. Again, by soaking up free radicals and bringing down inflammation, you're helping your brain function because you're reducing the stress that's on the neurons. You're helping your cardiovascular health by reducing plaque formation, and you're allowing for your immune system to be boosted up. Because with chronic inflammation, your cortisol levels go up and it suppresses the immune system. So you don't want that. You want to bring down inflammation. By bringing down inflammation, soaking up free radicals, you're slowing down the aging process. Turmeric soaks up free radicals and brings down inflammation. Now, you can take these separately and they work great. But the magic is when you stack them together. You stack the turmeric and the lignans with the ashwagandha root, take it daily, and it will help to slow down the aging process, boost up the immune system, help with your endocrine system, help with brain function, help with your cardiovascular system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and you will also notice you have more energy. Make sure you use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video.
All right. With that, we bring in retired four-star General Jack Keane, former Army Chief Vice Chief of Staff, now Chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and Fox News Senior Strategic Analyst. General Keane, always good to have you with us, sir. Thank you. I want to go to something that your organization published earlier this week. which basically says that the IRGC commander, Vahidi, feels that sort of time is on his side, that the status quo in some ways works to their benefit, quoting, it's a favorable situation that advances their objectives, such as solidifying Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz and maintaining the Iranian nuclear program. And yet we hear from the president that he is trying to get a fire lit under them to get this done. Where do you see that going?
Yeah, well, certainly we're in almost the 8th week now of the ceasefire. And President Trump has rolled up his sleeve. He's got his team focused on trying to get a peace deal here. And I think the people that our negotiators are talking to are indicating to them that they want to make a deal. But I believe there's real tension in the organization of the regime itself. And the military guys really have the leverage. And that's Vahidi, who you mentioned, the Institute for Study of War identified as the kingpin here. And you can see what he is doing to undermine negotiations. For weeks now, his forces have been attacking in the Straits of Hormuz in the Gulf area. While we were trying to ease shipping through there, kind of do it quietly, we can do that under this ceasefire. It's not a violation of it, certainly, to move shipping in the lane that we cleared. And we've moved a lot of them through there, some 70 plus. But he's been attacking them, and we've been obviously responding to that. They shot down one of our drones that was flying in international waters just recently. And we went after the air defense system, the command and control system that did that. They fired at the Arab states from time to time and U.S. bases this week, all undermining negotiations. And then we have this debacle going on in Lebanon. April the 17th was the beginning of the special ceasefire in Lebanon with terms of agreement. And almost immediately, Hezbollah has violated. So here we are, much less than 2 months. And as we indicated, they have fired rockets and drones 2,400 times into northern Israel, over 300 wounded civilians. Many of the towns in northern Israel and villages have had to be evacuated. Israel cannot sustain that, Martha. Nobody could. We couldn't sustain any attack across our border into our southern towns if drones from a cartel did something like that. So Israel responded, and they kept coming and kept coming, and then they decided to expand. And as a result of that, what happened? Hezbollah appeals to Iran after we killed 3,000 of the Hezbollah fighters. Now remember, this is a ceasefire. And the Israelis are in a defensive mode, only able to attack when an attack is imminent or there's one being executed. Otherwise, they can't conduct offensive operations. But they were pushing out to conduct an offensive operation and go after the stronghold to see if they could finally shut this thing down. And that's when the Iranians told the president they were going to stop negotiations. So the president got involved and settled a new ceasefire. In my view, it's going to be violated by Hezbollah initially, just as the previous ceasefire has been violated. So who is charging Hezbollah to do what they're doing? The IRGC is. They supervise the proxies. Vahidi has his grip on them. That's the reality of it. So they are undermining negotiations, to be sure. And that's the tension in the regime that the administration is facing, for sure. And I'm absolutely right. The more you drag this out, their idea here is that if they can drag this out closer to the elections in the United States, and they watch what we're doing here like a hawk. They're very tuned into us. They believe, just like Russia and China believe, that if you ever get in conflict operation with the United States, what you have to do is weaken the political support for that operation with the American people. And that's what this has a lot to do with. So what they're saying to us, we get closer to the election, it's less likely that President Trump would conduct military operations if the negotiations just blow up. Well, I think that's likely to be a miscalculation, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of how they're interpreting President Trump.
So, I mean, essentially, from what you're saying, they keep attacking, even though we're in a so-called ceasefire. We respond defensively to their breaches of this ceasefire. And all during this time period, they are working to solidify their control of the strait. They even have an app now that ships can go on to get permission
to go through the strait from Iran. So the more they establish that scenario with ships coming through, looking for approval from them, even using this app technology to get approval from Iran.
This is the reason why Trump is failing. Trump should have went in and made sure that he secured the strait with our Marines, with our airborne, with our military, with the Navy, and pushed back any operations that the IRGC has along this coast here, along this coast, and push it back and create a no-fly zone, no military operation zone for the IRGC. No, Trump's afraid. And because he's afraid, this is a fiasco. Oil's gonna stay elevated. There's gonna be inflation. IRGC will be emboldened. So will the Houthis in Yemen. Hamas and Hezbollah will become emboldened. And we're back to the very beginning of this, where we have to do military operations against terrorist groups. Trump failed. Trump failed because he was. Well, where's the Marines? We thought the Marines were going to take it. Oh, he created this peace agreement that failed, and then the Marines dropped off. What about the airborne? There was maybe no need for the airborne. We have this peace agreement with Iran. It failed. And then the airborne would dropped off. What about SEAL Team 6 and special operations? We might have this agreement with Iran, and then special operations start to fall off. Trump is failing here. He's failing. And because he's kicking the can down the road, trying to view this as some sort of only way to get the nuclear material is through a peace agreement, it's just false. These people will never agree. So the only way to get the nuclear material is to forcefully take it. Now we can control this region militarily and push back the IRGC through ground offensive. Putting boots on the ground. He's afraid to do it. And hence, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. I'm very unhappy on how Trump is conducting the war now. At first, I thought he was moving in the right direction, but he has this belief that he's going to find some sort of honest broker making an agreement, and he's going to get the nuclear material peacefully, and everything's going to be all kumbaya. And that's not the case. That's not the case. For us to get the nuclear material, we're going to have to forcefully take it. And for us to forcefully take it and to prevent retaliation from the IRGC, we need to put boots on the ground and secure the Strait of Hormuz. Now, they're afraid to do it. And hence, we're going to have this problem for another 10, 15, 20 years.
To break that format once they continue to lay it down during this so-called ceasefire.
Yeah, they recognize it exceeded their expectations, frankly, what happened. They seized the Straits of Hormuz largely through intimidation and coercion, and they were able to get control of it. And as a result of seizing the Straits of Hormuz, remember what happened? We went to a ceasefire. And that, I think, emboldened them as a result of it. They told us that they would go into negotiation with us and work out a deal to open the Straits of Hormuz. That's what enticed us into the negotiation. That didn't happen, and then we slapped a naval blockade on them. But yeah, they want to normalize their control of the Straits of Hormuz as much as possible. I would suspect one of the tension points in the negotiation is over the fact that they still want to have some organizational control over it. And that is absolutely hands off as far as President Trump and his team, as it should be. And we want them. This is international waters, freedom of navigation. They have no right to make any territorial claims here whatsoever. I think at some point here, we're going to need to take a hard look at returning to military action here if we're gonna move these people in the right direction.
Well, we know the president was.
They're settling in
Yeah.
to the
it
status
looks like
quo.
it. Looks like you're exactly right as usual. Okay, we're gonna go to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State speaking right now, but there's so much to continue. We need you here every day, General, so that we can follow this blow by blow. Thank you so much, sir.
Be sure to look. All right. Before we go to the next clip, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. Collagen is dual purpose. It's going to help with your skin, nails, and hair, help to improve and rejuvenate. It will help to improve your joint health, your cartilage, musculature, and bone density. It's a great supplement to take. Shown on the screen here is the typical amino acid profile. This is about a month's supply if you use a scoop a day. Some people do a half a scoop a day, but this is a great product. You can mix it with soft foods, filtered water, smoothie, milk. I mix it with hummus. Some people even put it in coffee. Now, I also have a great supplement to help to remodel your joints if you have arthritis or a sports injury. Now, you can stack it with the collagen, or you can take it separately. I recommend stacking it. Now, collagen is a supplement that you take every day. And what this will do is help to use collagen 2 and glucosamine to help to rebuild the cartilage. It'll also help to use acan and chondroitin to remodel the cushioning and help to rebuild that cushioning of the joint. So you have the cartilage and the cushioning of the joint. Now, when you have chronic inflammation, those get eroded. The cartilage starts to erode, the cushioning starts to decline, and you start getting pain. Now, collagen will also block a pain gateway called NAV 1.7. In addition, collagen will block EP4, which will help to, by blocking EP4, it'll help to bring down that inflammation. It will also block MMP3 and MMP13. That will help to reduce the actual erosion of the joint, called joint rust or rusting. So you can reduce the pain and allow for your joints to start to heal and start to remodel. Now, another key way to do this is whatever the joint is, you want to open it up. Let's say it's an elbow. Let's say you have some sort of arthritis in an elbow, or you have tennis elbow because of a sports injury or whatever. So different joints, you have an extension and a flex, flexing and extending a joint. All right. So you have the flexing of the elbow and the extension of the elbow. And some people may have pain both ways or just one way. But the point is that you get to the point where there's pain and go a little bit more, just a little bit, and then count to 20 seconds and then release and then do it again. Do that a couple times a day, 2 or 3 times a day. And what you will find that by doing that, you're starting to stretch out the joint. You're starting to send a growth signal to help to remodel the joint. And by taking the right supplements, you will have all the ingredients to be able to start to rebuild that joint by doing that exercise. So you do that exercise and taking the collagen every day and taking the collagen. And what you will notice that over time, you'll be able to open up the joint more with less pain. In some cases, no pain. So, but you want to do this right away, because the longer you let the joint fester, the more damage and the longer it takes to heal. So this is really important for arthritis and also sports injuries. So please go to my store, get the collagen and the collagen. You can take them separately, but like I said, I recommend taking both of them. And in terms of temporary pain relief, super strong relief. Works in about 90 seconds. If you have a bruise or a sprain or a pulled muscle, it's perfect for that. It's a topical. You just rub it in the area where the pain is. About 90 seconds, the pain is eliminated or greatly reduced. Now, it will also help with arthritis and tension headaches. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the super strong relief. Make sure you use discount 5, all caps, discount 5. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great supplements that I offer. All right, let's listen into this shock reversal. DOJ pulls the plug on major Trump era fund plan.
We're not moving forward with the fund, period. The reasons for the fund is something that President Trump talked about for a long time, which is the fact that there were a lot of people in this country who had their government weaponized against them. The reasons for the fund, I think, it remain as important as they were before, but we are not moving forward with the fund.
And that's Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche confirming the Justice Department will not move forward with the proposed $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. Blanche says, while the fund is off the table, the part of the settlement preventing the IRS from retroactively auditing President Trump and his family, well, that will remain in effect. Of course, the fund was met with pushback in Congress, the House and Senate now working to pass Republicans' party line immigration enforcement bill after missing the president's June 1st deadline. That fund was the point of contention over getting that legislation across the finish line. Joining me now is Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Muser. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. What can you tell us about the state of play? I mean, if Republicans have the votes to move forward today, you'll probably see the Democrats come up with amendments and use a vote-a-rama to test the GOP unity. Will you be successful in getting this reconciliation package over to the president soon?
Hi, Maria. Yes, I certainly think so. It's been 108 days with Customs and Border Patrol, as well as our Immigration Customs Enforcement has not been funded. The morale issues at DHS overall, we lost over 1,000 CISA employees. TSA has been rattled. Let's just remember why this all occurred. It's because the Democrats in over a 4-year period allowed 15 million illegals come into our country, and they're doing everything they possibly can not to have them deported. They're willing to die on that hill, not to deport all of these illegals, whether they're criminals, it doesn't matter. So we're finally going to get this done. I do think Republicans will stick together, if you will. It'll be an only Republican bill. It'll come back to the House, and we'll finally pass this reconciliation for our national homeland security.
So are you expecting anything else to be in that bill other than funding ICE and CBP?
No, these things got politicized. I mean, the president had a legitimate lawsuit with the IRS because they created a terrible situation by releasing his records, which is former Revenue Secretary of Pennsylvania. Those people should be going to jail for doing that. But anyway, and his plan was simply to create a fund for those who have been wronged as well along the way by that weaponized Biden administration. And somehow it got out that J6 may be able to get it. So the media, of course, just played that up in the worst possible way. So look, the president's a winner. He's not going to let this stand in the way of funding DHS. So he said, okay, let this go for now. Let's finalize this. Let's just move on.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, a new Treasury Department analysis of this year's filing season shows 90% claimed the deduction for tipped wages, 75% claimed overtime, no tax on overtime, 62% claimed the deduction for interest on American-made car loans, and 68% claimed the enhanced deduction for seniors. A majority of those filers reported an income below $100,000, Congressman. So obviously your one big, beautiful bill played out very well for the public going into tax season.
Yeah, Maria, really, the working family tax cut portion of the big, beautiful bill is fulfilling its intent and then some. As you said, 85% of those on Social Security are not paying taxes. 7.5 million or closer to 10 million have filed for the no tax on tips. The overtime is coming through. Billions of dollars going back to people. And keep in mind something. This is part of our plan. Our plan is to grow the private sector, put money back in people's pockets, drive consumer spending, but also drive supply side on made in America. Remember what the Biden administration and Democrats in general plan is. Grow the economy by growing government and excessive spending. Excessive spending both from a legislative standpoint out of Congress and out of the White House, but as well as the Fed. That was the problem with Jerome Powell. He was creating liquidity by purchasing treasuries and putting in Basel III endgame to limit banks' reserves, and so as to tighten the private sector. We're all about opening up the private sector, and that's what's going to drive real growth, real investment, and in the end, real revenue returns. That's why our revenues are so high.
Yeah.
So we got a far better plan. Theirs is big government, ours is big economy.
Well, the president has been able to really tap into what people want and need. I mean, the Treasury.
If things are so great because of the tax reduction, then why is it that we still have this K-shaped economy? Why is everybody walking on eggshells? I'll tell you why. Because the tax reduction that you had, that extra money that you received when you filed for 2025 taxes, is being eaten up by gas prices. So you can't just talk about, oh, great, the taxes are reduced, but instability is increased. Gas prices are higher. The world is less stable. I'm tired of Trump not finishing what he does. Classic example, all right, that $1.8 billion fund, canceled. All right. The tariffs between countries that help to mitigate some of the unfair practices of trade, in flux, not solve the problem. He hasn't solved that problem at all. What about Iran? The Strait of Hormuz is not opened up yet. Yet, when the war started, he said it would be opened up in 3 weeks. Maybe 6. It's a lot more than 3 weeks and 6. Trump is working on the White House and the expansion on the East Wing. That hasn't even been approved by Congress yet. Once again, another influx. No one really knows when it's going to get done. Chaos. Nothing but chaos. I want Trump to solve problems, not make it worse. Now, when you do construction and you're doing rebuilds and all this, there's going to be a lot of waste, and you're breaking down stuff, and then you have to build back up. All right, and during that period of time, when you are doing the demolition, yeah, it looks chaotic. But the problem with Trump is then it stops right after that, and it just like there's no movement. I honestly, and I want him to be president and be successful, I cannot say I fully understand any policy that he has done as 47, President 47, any policy that he has done that actually solved a problem in totality instead of it being a state of flux. Even the big tax bill, yeah, it was passed. But the taxes that you were getting back are being eaten up because of instability and the inflation of the chaos in the Middle East. So did you win? No.
On app stores nationwide this week, advancing the policy to create millions of investment accounts for children. I think this is such an important idea to get kids familiar with investing in the stock market. You say Trump accounts will help future generations participate in market gains. I have to agree with you.
It's terrific. I mean, we've got millions of people already, kids, families are already filed for it. The funding's going to be hit come July 4th. I have a bill to keep this going for future. It creates a participatory economy. Now, millions more will participate in our American economy. And you know what? Ownership breeds appreciation.
Yeah,
and hopefully we turn some of those that are a little bit socialist into participatory capitalists.
Well, I mean, it also gives you your hand on the wheel, right? I mean, you're in charge of your money and you understand how it's moving by following the markets. And this is a great education. I always say financial education starts at home. So when you're right there and watching your investments and you know what where your money is, it's a positive.
It was brilliant. States are picking it up. Some corporations are picking it up. Some small businesses are picking it up. It makes a lot of sense, and it's nothing about positive American growth.
Yeah, Cottrell, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Great seeing you, Marie. Thank you very much.
Dan Muser on Capitol Hill.
Your job depends on reliable tools.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight Formula. This has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower to allow you to get into 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. Super important to help to detoxify your central nervous system, to be well rested, and to also consolidate memory. A lot of people don't realize that good sleep will help to slow down the aging process and improve brain function. Super important. Also, another trick is that by building muscle, you're increasing myokines and BDNF that will help to protect neurons. So building muscle actually helps with brain function. Omega-3, super important. Why? Because it helps to bring down inflammation and help to control your lipid profile. It helps to bring down LDL levels and help to increase your HDL levels. So you have less plaque formation. Take it every day. Super important for improving your cardiovascular health. And by improving your cardiovascular health, you have better perfusion of blood to your organs, so your organs will work better, including your brain. Another way to improve brain function is to improve your cardiovascular health, so you get more brain flow, the blood flow to the brain. And when you have more blood flow to the brain, what you're doing is you are allowing the nutrients to get there, and you'll be able to build better neural connections. If you have poor blood flow, what will happen is that those neural connections will start to recede and those neurons will start to die. You don't want that. So good cardiovascular health will actually help with brain function. Another thing that will help with brain function is improving your pulmonary system. Deeper breaths and working out by doing some cardio. Improving your lung function gets more oxygen to the brain, and therefore your neurons are healthier. Another thing that's important is that when you have an unhealthy pulmonary system, what happens is that the blood flow around the alveoli is not as healthy, and toxins can get into the blood flow and create inflammation. There's inflammation that's caused in the pulmonary system, gets into the bloodstream, causes the blood-brain barrier to actually get inflamed and start to dilate, and these toxins get into the brain. So poor pulmonary system actually, over time, cause brain dysfunction. So you need to improve your brain by improving your pulmonary system. Now, if you've been paying attention to social media and just the society that you're in, no matter what city you're in, I bet you're noticing more people are smoking now. You'll notice that more ads or more social media memes are dealing with smoking. I'm noticing more people are smoking in New York. That's going to cause problems pulmonary, especially in a post 2020 crisis. And by having a weak pulmonary system, more people are going to get infections, more people will end up getting sick, but also causing brain problems. Now, people are already going to have early onset of dementia because of the crisis that we went through in 2020. But by smoking and causing more pulmonary distress and inflammation, it's going to add to the acceleration of the neural degeneration. So just keep that in mind. Also, resveratrol is a great supplement to take. It helps with youthful gene expression. It helps to soak up free radicals so your mitochondria are healthy. You're going to have more ATP, so you're going to have more energy. The cells will perform better. It soaks up those free radicals. And by soaking up free radicals at the cellular level, you're reducing inflammation of that cell and your tissues. In addition, resveratrol helps to improve the basal layer of your skin. You stack this with C60 and you're improving your skin. The C60 also helps with the basal layer by soaking up the free radicals. So to maintain that youthful gene expression, get the resveratrol. Resveratrol will also help to get rid of cells that are in senescence. Those are cells that just sit there, they stop dividing, they have small telomeres and just collect garbage. You want to get rid of those. Resveratrol will help with that. Okay. Well, there was some news that happened about 60 Minutes. There's some infighting going on, there's restructuring, people are being let go. And Scott from 60 Minutes had this big argument with some of the bosses and he was let go. So let's listen into that clip from MS Now.
Across town at CBS News who have been going through the bottomlands. CBS News is under a transformation that is driven by the President of the United States, by corporate interests that want federal approval for a big merger, a big consolidation in the media and news business. In order to do that, and maybe because they want to otherwise, they have been essentially bulldozing one of the great news organizations, news brands in American history, CBS News, the home of, among other things, 60 Minutes, the most successful American news program ever. The veteran correspondent at 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley, the most recognizable person on 60 Minutes, the former host of CBS's network news show, and one of the most respected journalists in America. Scott Pelley has been fired by CBS News tonight after a widely reported staff meeting confrontation with the new leadership that was brought in essentially from the classified ads to come run 60 Minutes. Scott Pelley confronting that new leadership about the changes that have happened at CBS News under the new leadership, under the new management, sort of oligarchic takeover of that news organization, and now the news tonight that he has been fired. Scott Pelley has put out a statement tonight, just in the last few minutes, in response to being fired. I would read it to you, but listen to me. I sound like I've been gargling with steel wool. Luckily, Jen Psaki is here and is going to be.
I'm going to be your spokesperson, sort of. This is incredibly powerful. We were just talking during the break about everybody needs to hear every word, so I'm just going to read every single word so that the audience hears it. It starts this way. There's never been anything in America like 60 Minutes. The Sunday tradition is the most successful program of any kind in history. For more than a decade, its innovative growth on every major online platform has extended its reach to countless millions around the world. This spring, at the end of our 58th season, 60 Minutes grew rapidly with an unheard of 9% jump in viewers on CBS. 60 has been the #1 program in America for decades because our beloved audience finds integrity, quality, and humanity in our stories. When stewardship of the program passed to my colleagues and me, our responsibility was to expand energetically into a new age of media technology while preserving the values our audience expects. Now, the new owner of our network is casting this legend aside, apparently to curry a moment of favor with the Trump administration. The waste is heartbreaking. Last month, 60 Minutes lost its DNA when our entire senior leadership and two of our best on-air correspondents were cruelly fired without cause. Good people were silenced because they stood up for our audience. They stood for fairness against the forces of political bias. They stood for professionalism against chaos. For my part, new management has instructed me to inject falsehoods and bias.
Where was 60 Minutes and CBS News during the crisis of 2020? They were promoting forced inoculations. They were trying to silence people that actually were trying to inform the public on what was really going on during the crisis of 2020. Just keep that in mind.
Politically sensitive story. Ooh. I've been told, these are just incredible words to hear. Stop, Pelley.
Yeah, just read that.
For my part, new management has instructed me to inject falsehoods and bias into a politically sensitive story. This is similar to what Cecilia Vega also had in her statement just last week. He goes on to say, I've been told to include assertions that are unverified.
Wow.
To date, in every case, I've managed to ignore these instructions or refuse them. Recently, politicians have been invited to choose correspondents for interviews on the broadcast. Giving politicians control over 60 Minutes interviews is not how this is done. Finally, incompetence and unprofessionalism in the new management have wreaked havoc. In a case involving one of my stories, the entire program came within 19 minutes of not getting on the air at all. Wow. This is 60 Minutes. I mean, 9 million people, I believe, were watching as of last.
And it's financial powerhouse.
At financial powerhouse. At 60 Minutes, we have fought harder than anyone knows to save the program that became an American icon. We owe that to our millions of viewers. I am deeply moved by the thousands of wishes we have received to keep up the good fight. Most of the men and women of CBS News are still in that fight, but now the collapse of values at the top has become untenable. The leadership of 60 Minutes is no longer recognizable. The principles I hold dear are gone, and so I must leave as well. I depart after 37 years at CBS. With one emotion, a heart-brimming gratitude for the men and women at CBS News who encouraged and enriched my work very often at the risk of their own lives. I pray for a day when those people and their ideals are honored again, a day when sanity, confidence, and courage return.
Wow.
New York used to be a place you could build your life and stay. But now too many neighbors are being pushed out. Sidewalks feel less safe. Laws aren't
return.
Wow.
How does the rest of CBS News?
How does the rest of 60 Minutes come to work? And how do the correspondents who are still there feel?
And how do the people who are doing this look themselves in the mirror?
Fine, let me be clear.
Good, good.
Okay. We
They
talked
are
about this
good.
during the break. Like in this is the equivalent.
They're good.
They're doging CBS, right? Elon Musk came into the government, not understanding how the government worked, and bulldozed it. Realized after mistakes, and just left a wasteland. Hated what he hated the government he was tearing apart, and there was no evidence that they wanted to rebuild it. That's what we're witnessing here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also this question that you encounter time and time again in this era in a variety of contexts and institutions, which is when to stay and when to go. And what do you do with, like, if you work at the Department of Justice, right?
CBS 60 Minutes is a long-standing, multi-generational program. All right? But it's not Lily White. And there was bias. Bias because of politics, bias because of advertisers. Do you think 60 Minutes is going to do a breaking announcement on a major advertising revenue stream? Are they going to go after Big Pharma if CBS is getting a lot of advertising revenue for it? No, of course not. So they're not Lily White. Let's stop pretending that they're Lily White. Now, why is it that Larry Ellison's takeover of Paramount, or the son of Larry Ellison, I should say, the Ellisons, takeover of this whole deal, pushing out and gutting 60 Minutes and some of the news organizations within CBS? I don't know. I'd have to, think about it a little bit more, but it's not lily white. I saw this with what happened with the crisis of 2020. The major news organizations were promoting the standard tropes of what you needed to do, and and it was, I think, in many cases, the wrong policy. Mainstream media failed the American public during the crisis of 2020. And it was also the mainstream media that helped foment some of the rioting and the protesting on campuses and in certain cities after October 7th. So, you know what? Maybe the news needs to look in the mirror and say, are they Cronkite or are they biased? They're not Cronkite. Now, could they repent and become better stewards, have better stewardship of the news? Of course. But it's important to view this with a critical eye, that CBS News and 60 Minutes wasn't lily white. It's really important to keep that in mind. Now, should they have individuals running CBS News and 60 Minutes with very little experience? No, I don't think they should. They should have people that have experience running it and move the news organization forward where it's less biased and more truthful than leaning towards some sort of corporate or political agenda. Now, they don't like Trump, and they're on the shit end of the stick. So they view this is just a political move to try to clean house. Well, what about when they were promoting Hillary? What about when they were promoting DEI? What about when they were promoting hating America? What about the news promoting, don't be patriotic, don't be family oriented, and don't have religion? This is the pillars that I've been talking about. Mainstream media has been promoting killing your fetus, having single mothers, and not normal family creation, less patriotism. So they were eroding the three pillars of society: God, country, and family. And in essence, the news today, which is not Walter Cronkite, that's for sure. The news today is eroding the actual foundation of our constitutional republic. And that is the Enlightenment from John Locke. The idea of life, liberty, and property rights. So let's call a spade a spade. The news, especially in modern day, the contemporary news, is a lot of bias, political bias, and corporate bias. So news is really just noise. Now, you can see patterns in the noise and maybe benefit from it. And that's what I try to do on the show. But it's important to have that critical lens and say, CBS is being wronged by poor management, and it is being and the house is being cleaned because of perhaps political persuasions or political proclivities. But the institution was promoting a certain agenda during Hillary Clinton running for president, during the Barack Obama years. What about mainstream media hiding really the health of Biden? They're talking about the health of Trump constantly. But the reality of the situation is CBS, ABC, CNN, NBC, they were very anti-conservative, anti-God, anti-country, and anti-family creation, anti-enlightenment. They're a postmodern ethic. And that's the problem. We need organizations that are in the middle, not left, not right, in the middle, stating the facts. If there's some impropriety that's taking place on the Democrat side, fine, investigate it. If there's impropriety taking place on the Republican side, fine, investigate it. That's not what happens. It's just infighting and an erosion of God, country, and family and our constitutional ideals. This constitutional republic that's built on the Enlightenment. They're eroding it. Every single one of them up on stage, they're eroding those ideals.
You're a civil servant who believes in upholding the law. How long can you hold on at the Department of Justice in the Trump administration? How long, what is the line? When is the moment when you get the thing from the boss that says, go do this thing?
What about under the Biden administration and Barack Obama's administration, when they weaponized the DOJ and the FBI and went after conservatives? See, they're only focused on what Trump's doing. But the thing is, the mainstream media helped them. Helped Biden and Barack Obama do. Because Barack Obama and Biden couldn't do anything wrong, according to these liberals. See, this is the problem. You have journalists that are liberals. See, when you look at students coming out of college, typically engineers, scientists, they're either middle of the road or slightly right of center, a little bit more conservative. You talk about liberal arts majors, journalists, they're left of center or left of center. Very rarely are they conservative or even right of center. And very few are centrist. They're either left or left of center. This is the problem. People need to come in and clean house. Just like there needs to be a purge in the universities of the faculty, because the faculty is the same problem. Liberals, ultra liberals. In journalism, liberals and ultra liberals.
And that set of ethical decisions that people had to make under these intense contexts of pressure get repeated over and over and over across the institutions that the current administration is trying to
Can I
destroy.
just make an argument, though? Whenever we look at those organizations and say, how can people say, why aren't they quitting? And we've said this about newspapers and television. These are people's jobs.
No, totally.
These are their lives.
No, and I mean it. I'm not saying. I'm saying there are people right now watching this program who work in the Department of Justice who are like good people with great values who believe in justice. There are people who are watching this program right now who work in the FBI or in the intelligence, one of the 18 intelligence agencies that are apparently going to get helmed by Bill Pulte. I mean, across the board, there are folks that are embedded in institutions that are attempting to that the sort of nefarious forces of corruption are trying to co-opt or destroy, and have to make evaluations about how they are going to.
I will say one piece of that is when you do decide you have to go, I mean, I don't envy anybody.
You gotta do it that way.
You have to do it this way.
You gotta do it that way.
Say why you.
Yes.
And you have to say what you saw.
Yeah.
And even whether you were pushed out or whether you left on your own terms, if it is time to go, I can tell you categorically,
yes,
the patriotic thing to do is to tell
here is the thing that I'm focusing on when I look at the CBS story. Scott Pelley is, as you described, just this figure in this time. But there's a new generation of journalists who are coming out of journalism schools and that are coming out of local broadcast and media situations looking to begin this trek. And what struck me in everything that Scott Pelley said was this: new management has instructed me to inject falsehoods and bias into a politically sensitive story. I've been told to include assertions that are unverified. If you are a 27-year-old newly minted journalist who's starting that track, this is what's so dangerous and corruptive and so poisonous about this administration.
Yeah. See, this is what I mean. Demonizing Trump, but not paying attention to what happened during Barack Obama and during Biden's administration. That's exactly what I've been mentioning. I've been mentioning this for many videos about the bias. That's why I show their content. Some people say, Dr. Paul Cottrell, why are you showing MSNBC? They're just so biased and they're just so liberal and blah, blah, blah. Because you need to go into you need to analyze your enemy. You need to understand what they are thinking and what they're doing wrong. But you also have to take a look at the other side. If you're more aligned with Fox, they do stuff wrong too. And I call them off on it. But the reality of the situation is here. He thinks that it's all Trump and that there's some sort of top-down control of what should be published and what shouldn't be published. Look at what happened during the Biden administration. Psaki, people are still waiting for her to circle back and actually answer a question. Oh, she's out of the White House now, so she doesn't have to do that. The bottom line is this. The mainstream media on ABC, NBC, CBS hid important facts about the health of Biden. And they also spun certain stories to try to protect the liberals, the liberal White House. But if you're a conservative, we're going to go after you. That's, what about being a journalist and being apolitical? No. Is that being apolitical? No. The way to do it apolitically is to say, Trump may be wrong on doing what he's doing, but the media was wrong on how they covered the Biden and Barack Obama's administration also. And that we need to look at ourselves and be more centrist and apolitical. That would be the right thing to do, but he doesn't.
Doing is that they're not worried about the past and the things in the present. They want to transform, terraform the future. And in this space, in the media space,
you think that the liberals weren't terraforming? Just go all the way back to the New Deal in the Roosevelts. They were trying to terraform politics with socialism. See, socialism and communism is antithetical to the Enlightenment. And again, like I said, our constitutional republic is based on the Enlightenment. So if you try to erode the Enlightenment, you're eroding our constitutional republic. So terraforming? The liberals were terraforming. liberals want to take a look at what's going on with Mondani in New York. It's trying to terraform New York City. See the bias in this? Oh, it's always Trump's fault. It's always Trump's fault. What about the crazy train of the ultra lib? How they were eroding God, country, and family and the Enlightenment.
Telling him now, you're gonna put this in paragraph 27.
Okay,
What's he gonna do?
Last Wednesday was the Emmys. And at the Emmys, and we saw 60 Minutes win multiple Emmys, a young man was given the Mike Wallace Award, right? He works, CBS gave him this award and he got up there. He's not older than 25 years old, and he spoke out against this organization that is now being controlled by corporate interests and standing in the way of the truth. So I hear exactly what you're saying, but it also gives me such faith when you watch these extraordinary young people, right?
But that's exactly the point I'm getting to. How do they respond? And if he's the example of that response, then what you just said, Rachel, about that moment when you have to come to truth with yourself, they can write this letter.
Yeah.
They can write this letter.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I want to call some preemptive BS on what we're gonna hear from the right, which is that, anybody that Scott Pelley, that Cecilia Vega are products of the left, that they are defending Democrats. And I'm just gonna say, I worked for 2 Democratic presidents who were interviewed by them. I was grilled by some of them every single day. I had no idea what their politics were. They were tough as nails on every single person I worked for. They called out things that they didn't think should be happening in government. That's who they were.
Why did she hide the health of Biden?
Yeah.
So anybody who calls that out, that is total BS. And I can tell you from experience.
Yeah. And I would also say that, Scott Pelley, if you're watching, come work for us. I actually don't have the power to hire you.
I'm sure you do. But if MS takes a vote, we all vote.
Yeah.
The reality of the situation is that there is, in contemporary news, especially mainstream, there is a huge bias. And this is the reason why people are going to podcasts to get informed. Because actually, near the event or the near the ground level of opinion, maybe you're getting a more unvarnished look at the situation. But it can be polarized. But mainstream media has lost its way. It's not Walter Cronkite anymore. Not at all. Not at all. And my observation is that it's left or left center. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. Myotrol will help to build muscle and maintain muscle. This is perfect to take if you're 40 years of age or older. Why? Because when you start getting older, you can't build muscle and maintain muscle. There's atrophy. Now, like I said before, building muscle will actually help with brain function. Building muscle will help to improve your posture, create denser bone by doing resistance training. So you get lots of benefits. Take the Myotrol, it's polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression to build muscle. Now, if you're an athlete, younger or older, you will also benefit from this. And you can stack this with Gladiator Barley to get further strength training benefits for your sport. But if you're not an athlete and you're 40 years of age or older, take the Myotrol, do some resistance training, build muscle, and you're going to get healthier. And when you're building muscle, you're producing more myokines and BDNF that will help to protect your neurons. So taking Myotrol and building muscle is actually going to improve brain function. Now, vitamin B complex. Vitamin B complex is very important to take if you're 40 years of age or older. Why? Because the first 4 B vitamins will boost up your energy. It will help with the electron transport chain to produce ATP. It will rev up your cellular metabolism so your tissues and your organ systems will perform better. And vitamin B12 protects neurons. And like I said, as you get older, you need to start paying attention to brain function, protecting your neurons. So a great stack is to take the vitamin B complex and the Myotrol. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. Share the links of the videos that I do. Ask your social media to follow me. I do all these videos for free. Please help support the work that I do by getting the great products that I offer on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and be a paid member to my Patreon channel or Substack channel. That will help to support the work that I do because all these videos are for free. If you pay attention to me, you will benefit financially, but you will also be able to improve your health and wellness. Thank you for listening. That's the end of my broadcast, and have a nice day.